So I've had a very, very healthy appreciation. That's why I'm all into modern alchemy. It's ancient plant wisdom with modern science. To have breakthroughs in the human experience is to understand we've incarnated. I mean, I know it's a spiritual perspective, but we did choose to show up, to take the best of what we know and to go further and to advance eco initiatives and to advance science, but to have the respect for what it's meant to serve and how we can tie the things together. I do have a foot in both worlds, very strongly, very respectfully, and everything.
Hey guys, it's Mandi with Global Hemp Association. I wanted to say thank you so much for joining. I'm excited about the opportunity to build a relationship and connect this supply chain. I mean, after all, that's why we started the association. Our association was built on the foundation of connecting supply chain, building relationships, and helping you grow your business. Anyone from farmers, manufacturers, and distributors, people that are passionate about the supply chain, and those creating products selling into biofuels, plastics, textiles, construction, and building materials.
You can turn it on. You're okay.
I forgot to plug it in. It's like in the other, my daughter moved it into the other room. We're always doing video stuff, so it's okay. We'll go live.
Awesome. Well, welcome. I'm happy to have you. And hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining. When you do hop on, say hello. Let us know that you're here. We love to chat, chime in on conversation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. But I'm really excited, Shira, to talk about what you're up to and how you got to where you're at. And I'm excited about your story and more excited about the journey that we're embarking on, right? What we have coming. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind giving a quick intro, tell people what you're up to and how did you get to this place?
Isn't that always the best question ever? How did you get here? As if we were all overnight successes. I'm like, no. Some of us have been working on things really quietly, really steadily for many years. I think I'm one of those. One of my favorite nicknames is Canna Fairy Godmother in Combat Boots. And I love that nickname because it kind of does represent my life. So my background is pretty humble in terms of how I ended up in this business space. I actually don't have a traditional business background, but I do have a clergy, spiritual care, working with large amounts of people in those settings, and used to have a private practice as a healer and past life regressionist. So I actually come from the side of looking at human beings living, or I'd rather say spiritual beings living a human experience. I have 25 plus years in spiritual care and clergy work and all of that, and healing work and inspirational everything. And I was a single mom. I still technically am a single mom, despite some blips, we'll call them blips, along the way. And years and years ago, I was struggling to raise a couple of kids by myself that were funky, that had challenges in how they were learning and integrating their experience. And truthfully, I think that motherhood necessity is really the motherhood of invention. That's what I like to say. And I was a mother who had these kids, and I wasn't finding the natural wellness solutions that I personally knew could just supplement or complement or take over for the myriad approaches that parents often feel they're forced to make about whether they should medicate a child, whether they should, trust this doctor or that institution. And ultimately, my journey became representative of what a lot of people's journeys really are like. How do you make the best, most conscious, most educated decisions about what's right for you, your body, your child? And so I started with a product line, having no idea what I was doing, except that I I channeled it. I got a very clear picture in my head, and I'd always been a fan of what I call still modern alchemy, which is merging ancient plant wisdom with modern science. And years ago, instead of spending money on furniture for my last divorce, I took that cash and I started my company with $13,000. That's all I had in the world. And I just knew that the products I wanted to make were not only going to help my children, but they were going to help everybody's. So I started an aromatherapy series called Synergy Sprays back in 2011. So I've been doing this work since 2010, 2009. Products came out in 2011, and they were awesome. They were pre-blended sprays. You can see the poster behind me a little bit. There we go for that picture. And They are nice ways of taking what makes the human experience so stressful, when you're overtired, when you're feeling dysregulated, right? We've always used, since the beginning of time, plant species, especially aromatherapy, or what people in hemp and cannabis call terpenes. But essential oils are also phytocannabinoids and terpenes. And so I blended them, and I worked with a certified master aromatherapist, and I said, I want it simple. I want them inexpensive. I want them to work. I want them to help everybody. And the tagline was, for anyone seeking sanity on the way to serenity. I was like, yeah, that's me. That's everybody I know. And it's certainly our children. And so that's really where it started. And then by 2016, I had soft launched at my first really large venue, which was the Cannabis World Congress and Business Expo in New York City at the Javits Center. And still didn't really know exactly why. I just knew I had to put this out there in a greater capacity, and I did. And that's when HuffPost and all these other, and moms with kids who were kind of funky as well, were like, wow, this is really cool. Aromatherapy, and I just breathe it, and it affects our moods, and it does this and that. And it was wonderful. So I never looked back. I went from that line, and then 2 years later, published the first edition of the book, The ABCs of CBD. That's this bad boy that's sold a lot. Actually, it's sold over 15,000 copies now, because there are a couple of chains. One of them, Your CBD Store, which has about 450 stores all over the US. That's the only book they use. They sell that as the educational, kind of the foundational guide. But so do attorneys and doctors and dispensary systems like Vireo and Curaleaf. They have that in the lobby for people to read and educate. It's not just about making products. It's actually about living authentically, sharing our stories, sharing our information, being collaborative in what we know and what we've lived and experienced to move this industry forward, and then hopefully empowering others to become their own best advocates. That's really what I'm still doing.
Okay. Tell me about where some of your challenges and opportunities have come.
Well,
this industry has been a lot of in and out. It's something that we've talked about. And you're seeing a lot of people that are really excelling and others that have really hit roadblocks, right? Tell me what advice do you have for them?
I think that the roadblocks are obvious, that they're innate. There are still issues with what it's like to be, and I'm being perfectly honest, to be a woman in business. That when I started, there were very few networks for women. There were very few places that we could turn to find that collaborative support, that energy, the wisdom, the experience. I belonged to other groups like New York Women in Communications, and I was the chapter president here for Holistic Moms Network. But I found, personally speaking, that the groups weren't speaking to each other very well. And there were so many things, because one is more business focused, one is more communications focused, one is more, Chamber of Commerce is all of those. There wasn't that much going on in the hemp and cannabis space for women. Now that's not the case anymore. And I'm hoping that I'm one of those people. I've been out there speaking. Women Grow was one of my first groups, right? So I think we still very strongly need to build our collaborative networks. And that's why I love you and I love what you do. And, because hemp really is a global species. Cannabis is a species, right? So this is about all of us connecting the myriad aspects and elements of who we are and what we do and what we know. And we can do a lot better with that. So that's why I love coming on shows like yours. And I love the work you do, because you're all about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So talk to me about that piece a little bit, and the women in the cannabis in the industry, right? This is something that comes up to me a lot. And I've had a lot of people just recently say, we need to really get more support for our women, like Marion, hello, and Shelley, hello, right? And so when we talk about these opportunities and the growth within the industry and the place that women have within the industry, right? What does the support look like that they need? And what can we do then to facilitate better relationships or better progress or support for the women?
I think one of the things I've noticed about women in business in general is that years ago, there was almost, because it was such new territory, women were not encouraged to be both homemakers and family and running businesses. COVID actually has changed a lot. I always look at the silver lining, and the fact that we were all relegated to working from home in a lot of ways, right? We were all in lockdown. We were forced to reevaluate and pivot what our communication looks like. And women by nature, we are connective tissue kind of creatures. We don't do so well being isolated. We need community. We need each other. So it did create a forced necessity to say, all right, well, let's up the ante in how we're making bridges, because that's really what it's about. 20 years ago, when women were in industry, I don't care what industry, any industry, there was more of a competitive nature because it was such an oddity to have women in C-suite positions, for example. And that is now something I've seen completely flip. Now being a mentor is not only expected, it's appreciated. And I think that as a woman in business, I don't care where you are in the supply chain of whether you're a C-suite, whether you're ancillary company, whether you're just looking to get in, we have a responsibility to do better on that front. And I don't even mind which organization, but organizations need to stop compartmentalizing themselves a bit. I see that there's a need state for everybody's so busy trying to claim proprietary. We talked about this the other day. I'm the one who started this and I'm the one who put that out. Really, I don't know. That's
always. Well, and how many hands are in it, right? Do you know how many times I've heard I wrote the Farm Bill or I did something?
Yes, I did this.
There's a lot of, it takes us all, right? It's this collaborative work. And I think that that's something that women bring so well to the table or have an opportunity to bring to the table, right?
But we can do better with it because there are organizations that are still trying to sort of, we're the voice for the industry. And, and at least there's a little bit more of a we aspect to that. We're the voice. But anytime an organization starts to use that language without understanding, well, there are other organizations over here and there are other aspects of the voice of the industry. So I still think we have to have a mindfulness about watching how we language what each of our groups does and is, and still seeking ways to bring that together instead of claiming ownership and proprietary. I mean, it is tough, like the ABCs of CBD, right? That it's a title. Technically it's more than just a book title. And I've seen a lot of people, when the book came out, started to use it places. Ask permission, be respectful of someone's copyright material, but it's also an actual trademark, educational and downloadable, webinar series. But I think that instead of wanting to stake claims, you can say, I'm so flattered that you're using that name and this is who I am. I'd love to know more about you. It's an invitation for collaboration as opposed to that, that's mine and that's you. And women, we don't do that anymore. We don't need to do that anymore. And we shouldn't do that anymore.
It's pretty eye-opening to me how many people in the cannabis industry or how few are women. When I sit around the table and I look at my own board, right, and my own involvement through Global Hemp Association, and it is a very dominant male-focused. Agriculture is very male-focused, or had been in the past. Right? And so I want to give shout out, right, that there is support. Where do people go to find the support? What advice do you give, and what were your steps that you took to find a group of women that you were in line with, that gave you the support? Because, and also men, right? I've gotten to where I am because both the women and men.
I mean, on a spiritual level, I always used to joke, we were in a period, although I'm only half kidding, of goddess energy rising. But you do need both. This is about duality. All things exist on the planet. All things exist in life. Nature could not be balanced without both sides. So as much as I'm all about the fempowerment aspect, make no mistake, I greatly respect and appreciate the male energy. And I do have a couple of people who are my guys, I love to call them that. But in terms of breaking the shattering the glass or the grass ceiling, right? It still exists. It still exists in many industries. And we are still, for a rather nascent industry in and of itself, there's a lot of room and potential for growth. Now, I was the president of the New York chapter of HIA when we were still chapters, and now we all became affiliates and all that. And my two favorite farmers in Eastern and Western New York, like opposite corners, were both women. That's a little unusual, right? We don't do that as much. So I'm actually launching now, even though my brand has been around for a long time. I'm actually launching a very large agritech company that is dedicated to cannabioscience and bringing all of this together. And part of my Fempowerment brand is to include predominantly women, because what is not being reflected accurately in the industry are some basic facts. Women are 80% of consumer buying decisions are made by females. We are 50% of the patient base in terms of the medical, and we are about 26% of C-suite positions. So that must be represented in boards. And if the boards are 90% male, and no offense, white men in suits, because I love my guys, but come on, you're leaving out one of the most significant voices that can help educate, empower, enlighten, bring to the table experience, and it needs to be better reflected. Boards are really a place where I would say, please raise your hand and step up if you're available for board positions, if you're looking for that. Let's open that conversation within our current networks and do a little bit better about including the female voice.
I agree 100%. Right. So talk to me a little bit about your book journey. ABCs. There's some people that are probably listening that don't understand some of the basics, right, of the CBD market. And there have been so many misconceptions, and we've been sold. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people have said, you just put 2 drops under your tongue and it makes you walk straight.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Right? And so talk to me
You're like, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are some of the basic things, and what are some maybe that even our industry misunderstands?
Okay. So I think that the funny part is people say, oh, what's your book about? And they assume that it's, just CBD. Right. Okay. Let me be very clear on this. This book is about everything. It's about the entire industry. It's about the whole world history of cannabis, and hemp is included, where we are in terms of politics, business, applications of science, physiology, delivery methods, the whole thing. Because CBD is just the catchphrase that sort of people mistakenly assume means the everything and the end all and be all, and it is absolutely not. And the funny part is I'm also the publisher for that book. So it wasn't enough just to write the book. I had to start a publishing company in my spare time. If you want something done, give the task to a busy woman, right?
There's something to be said about this. Yes.
And I had a distributor and all of that. And it's been crazy. I need to let that part go, truthfully. However, the book has been edited quietly 3 times since first publishing in January 2018. And the chances are the people who first bought that book don't have the current version. So go order the current version. The Kindle has not been updated because I have yet another version that needs to come out, but I'm waiting to launch the agritech company, which is EcoSynergy, doing business as Synergy by Shira Adler. Once I get that moving, I do have to update the science again. I do have to update the content again. So it is still, that book, a really great resource and tool for that foundation level of what we're talking about when we mean CBD. Because people think hemp equals CBD or CBD equals automatic health and wellness from a specific dosage. And they don't understand the foundation of what cannabinoids are. They don't understand the foundation of various delivery methods. There is a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of fundamental core data and understanding of even the plant biosynthesis, if you will. And that's something that actually we're going to be talking a lot more about with the new company as we get into deeper research. But I know you're going to ask me about it too, because I just came back from Dallas and had a great time. It was my first talk in a while. Welcome back, love. And
I don't know what happened. I'm sorry. I'm telling you.
I know you jumped back on. I was like, I'm just going to keep going. She's going to come back on. And we'll
you did good. I'm here and I could hear you, but my camera.
Yeah, I figured. I could tell it was still live and still going. And that's what we love about live broadcasts, babe. Come on, this is all good. So I think there are a couple of basic things that I want people to understand. I personally feel, and the reason I'm launching this new agritech company with an incredible team, the most brilliant people I know in the space, that I've been lucky to have relationships with for years, is that it's one species. It's different cultivars. It's different applications. The research was a little on the funky side. We need to do a lot better. We can get into all that. But it's one plant species, and therefore, I think that we need to kind of go back to the roots. Excuse the pun, but we do.
Sure.
And we need to take a much deeper, more authentic look as to, I want to see what he's saying. How we language, very important. Yes, thank you. Language and communication are key. So even how we're languaging, thank you, Joseph Marrow, from I don't know where you popped up from, but it's incredibly important that we kind of go back and reframe some of how we language what the species is and does and the different aspects so that we can, again, create more bridges as opposed to compartmentalizing. Well, I'm taking this piece and I only work with.
It's almost a re-education, right? We really have to, right. And we have a close connection that always says the CBD industry hijacked the hemp markets, right? Or the CBD market hijacked the hemp industry. And I think it comes back to almost that education to that catchphrase, like you said, CBD is not the end all be all, and there's all these other opportunities.
Honestly, it's low hanging fruit. And I know that's an odd thing for a woman to say who sells CBD products, but what I really sell are wellness products.
Sure.
What I really sell are in terms of my brand, ancient plant medicine, because that is a very specific cornerstone of how we need to live our lives. But that's kind of the inside out, what you put inside your body or topically outside your body. But that is just your physical being and the physiological, the biochemical aspects. That all has to do with, the cannabinoid structures, which aren't actually cannabinoids, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But at the same time, we also have to remember that we have synergy with our natural world and our environment. And the very same components that are affected in research through this plant's biosynthesis must be better understood, elaborated, shared, and applied into our industrial products. Because truly the future, and I do write about a lot of it in the book, don't just get stuck on the products you put inside your body or touch your skin with. Think about the impact that everything that you eat and think about and use, there's the synergy of that. We have a relationship within our own bodies and within our families and our communities, but also with our planet. Mm-hmm. And so my job with this newer company is to focus on the bigger picture and to do deeper research on smaller molecular levels to affect the bigger picture. So we have to sort of go micro to affect the macro. So the communication on that is incredibly important because I still go to events where people are like, oh, it's dosage, it's this, it's that. And first of all, they're only talking about products. I'm like, okay, that starts your morning. That's how you take care of your self-care and your body for the second. But now talk to me about the sick building care. I don't know if you remember the sick care industry. That's another name for what we call healthcare and wellness or sick building issues, right? Mm-hmm. Because we've separated our human body so much from being connected to the natural elements that support our experience and our life on this planet. We can do better and we have to. So that's actually really, really expanding the vision and the look at what this communication is really supposed to be about. It is re-educating as to what the species means for us.
Totally. So just bringing this up brings back we had an interview with a gentleman that is a member of the association whose wife lost a baby due to the condition of their home, the mold inside their home, right? And so when we talk about the impact of our homes or our healthcare within the actual structure and how much that impacts us, you're right. I think that there has been this separation that, this lead paint and the asbestos and the metal and the, chemicals that we're putting into the wall, how do they not affect us? And then more so into our clothing, right? Cotton is something that consumes 40% of the pesticides and chemicals. Where do those go? Right?
It's almost a little naive for people to take a look at, and I don't mean that to be insulting. I just mean that we have lost the perspective of understanding that everything that we think, feel, touch, ingest, use, and create impacts our experience. There is a synergistic relationship between every element. And so if we're just focusing on, it's kind of like, well, doctors are really brilliant, and please don't, I totally adore my doctors. I have MDs and PhDs and clinical psychiatrists that I work with. They're the most brilliant people I know. And they're so brilliant because they also understand the importance of plants and integrative approaches, right?
Well, I think it's that holistic, right? That entire picture. It's not this tunnel vision that,
You know that we're still educating doctors in this country with only 4 required hours of nutritional therapy and understanding and education as part of a medical school generic. Yeah. Yeah, they don't teach about nutrition as part of med school programs.
well, and I think, like you said, there's a big separation, right? And I'll be honest with you, I might be one of those people, or have been, to where there is such a separation. Also a separation in this like foo-foo, voodoo,
what I do,
craft in synergy and crystals and energy, right, to medicine. It's almost like this like fluff. And so how do we bring those together? Talk to me about how it became business. Yeah.
That's all me. I don't know if you can even see it, but wait, I have to show you to see if you can see. Look behind me.
Yes.
Okay, do you see what's in the cabinet besides the those would be crystals. Lots of them. I wear them every day. I use them. I am one of those combination frou-frou kind of weird earth mama spiritual kids, and I'm very educated as that. I have
and business. You're very business
and science. My late mother was an early neuroscientist. When I was a little girl, I was that geeky, weird kid who worked with her dad in the lab at the University of Pennsylvania when he created the major called the biological basis of behavior. And it was a pre-med and psych combination program, the first of its kind. I think it was maybe like somewhere in the 70s. I don't know. I was a kid, so I don't remember. But I do remember playing in the labs. And I do remember taking for show and tell a bunch of newborn rats because my father was studying back then the reproductive cycles of rats.
Yeah.
Because that's what every,
dad does.
Unusual, right? So I would show and tell. Other people would bring a stuffed animal. I brought live baby rats.
That's cool.
Cool. I was that weird kid. So I've had a very, very healthy appreciation. That's why I'm all into modern alchemy. It's ancient plant wisdom with modern science. To have breakthroughs in the human experience is to understand we've incarnated. I mean, I know it's a spiritual perspective, but we did choose to show up to take the best of what we know and to go further and to advance eco initiatives and to advance science, but to have the respect for what it's meant to serve and how we can tie the things together. I do have a foot in both worlds. Very strongly, very respectfully, and everything I do is a representation of that. Everything.
Awesome. So talk to me about where you're headed now. Where this new business and the company and what opportunities are there, and then how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, sleep would be good. I hear great things about that. Actually, you know how I survive? I use my sprays a lot. I do. I love those things. I walk my walk for sure. In fact, my daughter just had a big surgery. She's an influencer and this cool sculpture artist person. And so she had a surgery. I had a huge surgery. See my little neck thing there? Yeah. So right before COVID, I was asked to speak at the UN. I was supposed to speak in Malta. I was going to the UK for a big book signing thing. Like all this big stuff was happening. And poof, in a way, like overnight, all of it. I was like, wow. And I had 2 discs taken out of my chiropractor bulged 2 discs into my spinal nerve. That's so great. So I ended up with major surgery for 10 weeks. Just before COVID, I was out, quiet. Nobody heard or saw me, recovering, took my stuff. I didn't take Tylenol. I didn't take opiates, nothing. I just got through it. And I was driving for maybe 5 days. And then we were put under sheltering orders in New York. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. That was life altering. And I was like, and I thought, I'll finish the edits on the book. I'll start my second book. I'm writing a book called Pink Moccasins and Other Footwear Inspired Tales of Fempowerment. Each chapter is about a woman in the cannabis and hemp space and how we walk in our journeys and how we stand in our power, told through the expression of our favorite pair of shoes. Because women always connect over shoes. You can be anywhere, doing anything, in any country in the world, and a woman will just look down. Just happened to be in Dallas. I was wearing these really cute shoes when I was doing my talk. My talk was on the new frontier of cannabioscience. And I was wearing these really great, like funky, bright colored alligator skin looking things. And of course, 5 women were like, great shoes, girl, right? So it's how we connect to each other. It's how we validate and recognize each other. So I have a lot of work to do, and I got none of it done while I was recovering. I couldn't even, it was a little bit of a hot mess. And as coming out of that is when I was forced to pivot, like many of us were during this COVID period. And I thought, okay, well, I have to sit still. I have to think. I have to be quiet. I can't really do much. So it's time to envision what's next. And what's next is let me look and feel into all the issues. What are the need states of people? Where does the clinical research need to go? How can I help adapt? I saw trends. I've always been good at that, sort of seeing where people are landing. Everything from the price of lumber, right? It bothered me. I went, that's because people aren't moving and they're not selling their homes, or they are because they're trying, all the COVID stuff. I was looking for the through lines of what people needed and how I might be able to help solve some of those problems. That's always how I've shown up. I wrote the book because my son was in residential treatment, smoking too much pot when he was young. I was worried about it. Like I live and feel empathy for where people's lives are and what we need to do to correct some of these issues, understanding that we have more that connects us than that which divides us, which is another big problem that's happened this year. So that's kind of where I'm headed, was saying, okay, well, we need to work on our housing. We need to work on our agritech. We need to advance and correct some issues in our supply chains. We've had hackers through supply chains in different industries. We have crypto coming up. I could just see all of these things and how people were responding and being affected by them, and saying, we can work on these. We can work on these little bits at a time, baby steps at a time, better, more accurate research, more collaboration, more talks like this. We can do this. And that's my motivation. That's what I'm here to do. I just need to get my funding in, because it was kind of promised a while ago, but the world kind of flipped upside down and there's stuff going on. So having conversations, waiting any moment now, and then watch out, because we have a lot of stuff to do.
Tell me about the agritech business, and what does it mean for the industry, for whatever industries you're touching, right? The verticals you're touching.
No, we're touching 3 verticals: medicine, technology, and sustainability, because that's the world we're living in. That's what our need state speaks to. Obviously the medicine, and there's no question that when I look at, again, where the holes are. Oh, hey, Sean. Sean's a new contact on LinkedIn. Thank you, buddy. I think that we need to, again, we talked about the re-education. We need to go back and correct something we got a little bit incorrect, which was the foundation of cannabinoids to begin with.
Okay, Liv, I'm excited to hear about this.
Okay, so with all due tremendous respect to Dr. Mishulam, none of us would be here without him in terms of our products. However, there technically was a woman, a female researcher, who sort of started saying this first. And as typically is the case, the woman's voice didn't get uplifted as much. And then this wonderful, great dude, and he is great, he came out from Israel and said, oh, look, cannabinoids and the endocannabinoid receptor system, and yay. But what was he actually studying when he made that determination? In Israel, and I know this because I've got siblings who live there. My brother works for Facebook. He runs recruiting over there, and et cetera. And his wife is a Stuart Weitzman Research Institute, MD, PhD. So I got lots of smart people over there. And it turns out he was working off of hash. When he was studying and coming up with all these discoveries about cannabinoids, he wasn't working with organic natural plant materials that he grew. He was working with illicit, illegally seized product, because that's all that was available then, right? Okay, well, that's kind of like I love this analogy. My most brilliant, respected Dr. Kari Alif is going to be working with my company, one of my mentors and friends. That guy is he's a forward-thinking MD, PhD who knows plant medicine better than anybody I know. And he and I always have really, really deep, cool conversations, along with Dr. Martin Katzman, who's my clinical psychiatrist at an integrative place in Toronto, the START Clinic. And we have great, great chats. But Kari and I were once talking, and I said, how do I explain this issue and this challenge so people understand where we got the science maybe not so right? He goes, well, sure, it's like grapes. He said, you can have as many grapes as you want. You don't get drunk. And I was like, of course, they're grapes. He said, but here's what happened. The grapes, if you make grape juice out of it, well, now you have a different kind of product. You have secondary metabolites. You have all this other stuff going on. You have maybe the sugar's too much for a person. Maybe it's got a preservative in it, right? There's some other stuff that's happened in the processing. And so now we react a little differently to that grape juice. Okay, but you're still not getting drunk, right? But then that grape juice is now sitting in the supply chain. There's an issue and now it's fermenting. So if the grape juice ferments, now it's wine, AKA now we have THC or we have CBD, because guess what?
As it degrades.
In the plant's natural biosynthesis, you don't have THC or CBD. Right. Cannabinoids are really terpenoids would be a more accurate description. So our company is going to go way back up 2 levels into the pre-acid forms, et cetera, in the plant synthesis and study more of the structures where they really are creating the core magic. What makes that grape so holistically whole, healthy, wonderful, and applicable? And how can we solidify and expand the efficacy of products that we make from said grapes before it becomes fermented?
Right.
And that's what our focus is. And in the way we're doing that, our core research, our clinical studies, all of that, which are meant to make these great products, are also to stabilize products, not just for us, because again, one of the issues that I've seen and experienced over the years is holding it in suspension. I work with aromatherapy. I work with terpenes. I work with things that, how do you get those molecular components to bond and to hold and to let them express the best and most vibrant versions of themselves? Because that's kind of an always, like think about flavonoids. We love flavonoids. We are always like, eat fresh fruits and vegetables and have antioxidants and do this and that. But for years and years and years in the natural wellness market, flavonoids are hard to stabilize, right? They just don't hold that strongly that well. So that's why we use things like X-ray crystallography and directed evolution. So we're going to use a lot of fancy advanced science to solidify these molecular organisms so that we can make and support nature in her most vibrant form. And then those same little components we're going to make that make the products, the medicine side, so much better, also apply to the industrial side. Because you are still talking about plants. You are still talking about how to make healthier products, how to make stronger, more natural products, how to do away with chemical processing, which is kind of an issue in, let's say, hempcrete. So I own the trademark for the word biocrete because that's the direction we're going in. There's nothing that is really preventing us from creating incredibly vibrant, healthy, and whole and unified products for not just what we put in our body, but again, what we're living in, the very building materials, the very bioproteins and biofuels and not bioproteins, but biosugars and all those things that we actually can work towards. That's where we're going. That's why it's agritech. It's like biotech meets natural wellness, meets integrative, it's basically just all the stuff I think about and I've been thinking about for 20 years.
So I have a question. Ironically enough, tomorrow I've got, I guess Paul on our show, who has studied terpenes and the value of the terpenes in the plant and the atmosphere, right? Can you speak to the terpenes? And I heard you bring it up, and you're not the first person, and he's not the first person I've heard it from, that, again, we kind of missed our shot and missed the focus on the flavonoids and the terpenes.
We did, but that's what we're going back to doing. And well, I didn't miss the shot. I've just been too I've been this big, I've been doing my little thing over here.
Well, but in general, it's like the focus on CBD or especially an isolate, taking it down to an isolate.
Right. So my concern with some of what we're doing, and here's the beautiful part about, I think that this is an invitation and a call. If you want to get into this industry, please care about the end result, care about 2 things. This is what our company is dedicated to: biodiversity and sustainability. Mm-hmm. And I don't just mean sustainability in terms of, a sustainable eco product, that makes like hempcrete is sustainable. Great. That's not what I mean. What we really mean, even though that's important, is that what makes a product that you use today the same exact has the same strength, has the same purity, has the same efficacy 6 months from now, a year from now, or if you buy a similar version of something in a different place? What makes it sustainable, meaning that the impact is the same and is trusted and can hold? That's sustainability. And biodiversity is, well, it's kind of my issue when things rush to market like the vaccine. Sorry, can I say that?
What?
I know I have to be mindful because people are going to jump all over me like they always do if I say something out of turn. My issue with rushing to market with a product that may or may not have all the proven safety mechanisms, and then saying that that product is incredibly significant for every physical person. They haven't done biodiversity studies. If you skip animal trials, if you skip testing a product of any kind on every different kind of demographic, then you really can't speak to the side effects or what's going to happen long term because you haven't looked at or respected biodiversity. And we as individuals on this planet are designed to uphold and represent biodiversity. So I have a huge issue with things that are like, this is good for everybody no matter what. That is not true. And saying that's irresponsible.
I think that speaks a lot to the, craze around CBD. As like you said, speaking about the dosing instead of, and a question I always ask is, what's the carrier oil, or what's it in, or how is it processed?
What's carrier oil, and what's the I had somebody early on who didn't want to buy, like I used to carry capsules, but then I saw some issues with them, and I wanted to be, until I'm ready, until I know and trust and consolidate, until it's something that I can feel it in my body and my children's body, I won't even put it out. Mm-hmm. Like I'm just not that business owner. I will not do it. And so the terpene, I'd rather go slower and work with the components of what makes something incredibly, and terpenes and terpenoids are really, really where the magic is. And I think that going back to that question, yeah, we're right. We have not done enough with this. So now I'm trying to bring the worlds of like people who like essential oils together with the cannabis and hemp people. But the carrier oil issue, if you've got IBS, Crohn's, and colitis, all of that, again, nothing I'm saying is meant to be medical, construes medical advice. I'm not a doctor. Please consult with your physician before starting this or any other protocol, blah, blah, blah. Disclaimer language. But there's a reason we have to say that, right? Again, it's about accountability and responsibility. And as the industry level, we are responsible for each other. On a personal level, I have to take accountability for anything I say, do, and what I offer and put out in the world. And to me, let's go back to the root of this plant. Let's go back to the basics. Let's study these terpenoids. Let's study terpenes and understand that's really where the strength and the power is. It's not the CBD, really. Although by the time I get through my products, I've created a holistic regimen. They are designed to work together, but that's why I use aromatherapy with them. Mm-hmm. And that's why I've been doing it since when did I start with the CBD? 2016. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a long time for this space.
Yeah, right.
20
And it's funny, you get into pharmaceuticals or anything like that, and you feel like a newbie. But you get into the cannabis space or the hemp and cannabinoid space, and 6 years is a long time.
6 years is a long time, but I've been doing it really since 2011. I just didn't. Yeah. So I've been working with terpenes and this research since 2011 or 2010. It came out in 2011. So that is a long time. And that's why the book needs to come back out again with new edits and a new title, maybe even just because I don't want to confuse people. Now it has to be the advanced guide will be the next one, not just the essential guide. Because there's essential information and then there's advancing that essential information.
Absolutely.
And I still want to be that voice. I want to be out there. I want to encourage. Oh, good. Joseph
says he agrees. And then he's got a good question that are there any companies that are focusing on biodiversity? I mean, outside, right? Is that something that we see? And how do we bring that? Because I think that this is part of this paradigm shift we talk about, right?
It is part of the paradigm shift. I can say that, look, I do have partners in different sectors, especially in biotech and all that. We are working, and there are other companies and groups, but my job is actually not even just make products. It's to make the core elements that can then be licensable out to other companies. There are good companies that I think really are passionately caring about the future of this industry. So I don't want to just make and sell our own stuff. I want to make stuff that everybody else can use as well. And that includes the research and the data and how we share the data and how we share our stories. Because biodiversity isn't just something you analyze in a lab. It's something you experience in life. It's about how we communicate with other people and hear, at the end of the day, when I check in on a Facebook group chat, and I'd love to have alternatives to Facebook, honestly. But, okay, I'm just going to say that too, because I'm a rebel. But it's about listening to what someone cares about and how something is affecting their lives. And for that mom of the autistic child who said this product isn't working, or, God forbid, I mean, that's such a sad story, but my house has mold. I mean, I've lived through that. It's just, we have to start speaking our experiences more authentically and more openly and more readily, because that's actually the data that we care about. It's really not even just in a clinical study. Well, the two sides of the same coin. I need to hear from people. How are you living? What are you thinking? How are you dreaming? All of that. That's where the biodiversity meets sustainability, meets our human experience. And again, a simple reminder, we're not human beings trying to be spiritual and trying to improve our lives. We are spiritual beings having a very often complicated and painful at times human experience. How can we show up and do that better? Reminding people that we're stewards of each other and of our planet.
I agree. Did you see this comment from Dr. John?
I know. Everybody keeps asking me
You
what
rebel.
Clubhouse.
So we are hosting Clubhouses on Tuesday and Wednesday evenings. We're going to start hosting. I'd love to have you on or invite you. If you haven't been on Clubhouse, it is a great
I'm on it kind of a little bit, but oh my gosh, it's been so hard.
It's just one more thing. I feel like it's just one more.
Yes.
And it's one more social media platform to go to, right?
And I have to be on it. Like I have to be on it. So the other things I can pop in, I can share, I can do that. And I just, you're right. I know. And I will, with you, Mandi, I will definitely come on and let's deepen this conversation. Let's build our collaborative networks. Let's, raise our voices together for sure. I will do that. I will make, I've been asked many times, no excuse, just, hey, look, I'm back to doing online Zumba daily. So
hey, I am impressed. I may have to get on and join you. That's what I should be doing.
I know. I'm going to have this whole group, and my little teacher, he's going to be like, where are all these new people from? Oh, Shira opened her mouth and told people.
Yes,
I called a new friend in Texas. I was like, you have to get on these classes with me. He's like, okay.
I love it. John says it's very, Clubhouse is very, wow. When is your Clubhouse show again, Mandi? On Tuesday and Wednesday is when we'll host it. And I'll be sure to invite you. I'd love to have you on, John. It'd be great. Well, Shira, what else? How do people get in touch with you? And what else can we do to help support this message and support the movement? I think that the collaboration and the biodiversity is key, right? And especially when we talk this paradigm change. And I think that that's something that's hard for people to wrap their head around.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much, Ann. So you can find me. I'm on social at the one Shira Adler, which I think is right there under my name. And you have to spell it out, THE and the number 1 with my name, because there is another Shira Adler in the New York area, and she does not like what I do. I think she used to get a lot. So that's my name across pretty much all my social channels, which I haven't been checking as much as I should, but I do. I get back to everybody. The email is the one Shira Adler at Gmail. I do respond. It just sometimes takes a while depending on how many reach outs. And of course, the products are available on ShiraSynergy.com. So if you do want that, there should be a good code for those who are listening and watching. You can use the word synergy and use that as a coupon code. And if there are any issues with that, my other site is, something apparently happened, but ShiraAdler.com. You can opt into the newsletter on that. Because as soon as we get EcoSynergy built up, the website for Shira Synergy will be fixed. A lot of stuff is in the works. But find me on social, find me via email, find the products on ShiraSynergy.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty accessible. And I'll be on Clubhouse with Mandi very soon.
I love it. Well, and we've got other projects and things that are in the works that I'm excited about helping and bringing forward. Okay, so I have a question. When we talk about building team and collaboration, what would be a piece of advice you have for others when it comes to building that tribe around you and really finding people that you want to continue to connect with, build business with?
Try to find like-minded individuals in other current groups. So we have Women Empowered in Cannabis, Kerr's group. We have Elementa I loved that group. We have Women Grow. That's where I started. So there are groups. I mean, if we're talking specifically for women, but there are groups in general. Even LinkedIn has groups. So please do not only connect and find each other, but I like to start every day, and I try to stay in gratitude and have gratitude moments all throughout the day. Ask how you can be of service. Start your day with that intention of how may I be of service? Because when we're only going out seeking something that you think you need you have to flip that, because if you want to receive that support and collaborative energy, you actually have to offer it. So just make sure that you're walking authentically and that you're asking to put out the energy. Then, of course, it naturally kicks back on you. But I do think that there's something about the energy of showing up and saying, how may I be of service? Who are you? And what do you need today? And it can be really, really small, or an introduction to somebody, because we all have networks. We all have our friends. We have our colleagues. We have, I did the Dallas conference because a friend of mine down in San Antonio, James Johnson, said, you should go to this one, right? So people plant seeds all the time as a natural part of just showing up and smiling and asking that question. Who are you? What are you doing? How can I help you?
I agree 100%. I say there's a couple of things all the time, right? Money always follows value. So if we're providing value, money will always follow, right? And then law of reciprocity is real. If you're giving, it will come back, right? And if you're walking in, I think that's something I coach the most often, is coming into a meeting and that hard sell and immediately going into what you do instead of trying to first figure out who else is on the call. And I think that's even more important.
I agree.
In Zoom, right? When there's a whole bunch of people listening, it's become even more critical and more important for building relationships.
My word is all about synergy. It's, let's see, how can we create synergy? And it's not because, do you have something that I need? It's right. Do I have something that can help you? Because I can help
the whole picture.
I already know. Yeah. Yeah, I know that this picture is just going to keep expanding, and we are all these beautiful, multi-hued. The tapestry itself is filled with multi-hued threads. Each one of us is a thread. But if you think that you're just there to strengthen to build that tensile strength just for yourself, you're not. You're not. You can't build it without building it with and on behalf of other people. So just remember that, show up, because truthfully, those with that energy, we're drawn to each other. Mm-hmm. I will show up and work 10 times harder when I know someone has their alignment, that they have core personality that I know I'm going to want to work with. It shows a different kind of energy, and it's offering an invitation to someone. And I like the way she thinks. He's like, Mandy invited me on the show, and we were talking with this guy, and now we're doing this hemp consortium and all this great stuff.
I'm excited.
And be open and be kind. It's not that hard. It's just not that hard.
You got it. Well, perfect. Okay. Well, I invite anybody that's listening, for those of you that are not part of the Global Hemp Association or attend any of our other meetings, please feel free to. We would love to have you. I'd love to make connections. We're a membership-based group. We host 8 to 12 meetings per month with all different subjects and categories. So you can attend one or all or any of them. I always tell people, if you have time to attend them all, we need to talk.
Yeah.
However, the education it's on point, and there's so many great people to meet. So I'd love to have you, and I'd love to help connect you with Shira as well.
And get this book. I forgot, Amazon. Just go grab a copy on Amazon. And
in fact, will you send me the link and info, and I will put it out in my newsletter, and we'll post it, because I want to be sure that I got a copy, but I want to make sure that we get our members on copies as well. So besides that, I really appreciate your time today, and I'm excited for our conversation, I guess, later this week.
I know. I can't wait. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for checking in today. And thank you, Mandi, because you are a super incredible goddess. So
you're awesome. We'll see you guys. We'll be back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Mountain Time with an awesome guest, also talking about the terpene profiles and the benefit to our environment and what cannabis has to offer. So I'm really excited about that, but we'll see you guys later. Thanks, Shira.
Bye.
See you later.